We want to welcome everyone to the meeting, and public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the standing committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You would come forward to the microphone and be recognized. And for accurate recording purposes, we would ask anyone speaking to speak directly into a microphone. Could I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Bryant.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Kane. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Bynum.
Here. And we have minutes from our April 24 meeting. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. The minutes are approved. And the first item under our committee agenda tonight is the a resolution authorizing a survey of lands for the Juvenile Center / Memorial Hall West repairs. Mr.
Haga.
Haga. I always want to say Haga. Mr. Haga.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item is a basic resolution under Kansas law that we have to pass in order to do any acquire any lands via condemnation for the property west of Memorial Hall for a parking lot that's going to be created in conjunction with the Juvenile Center complex construction.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Could we have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you. Item 2, we have a resolution authorizing a survey of lands for the new BPU Rosedale Electric Station.
Commissioners, the same thing is required by Kansas law for any potential condemnation proceedings for the land that we need for the building of the Rosedale Electric substation. If you have any other questions regarding condemnation, I can answer that. Any questions regarding the substation project, Pat Morrill is here to answer any questions.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on this item. Roll call.
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you very much. All right.
It helps to be liked.
Item 3, we have an ordinance relating to seatbelt fines, and I noticed that staff is requesting a fast track to this Thursday's full commission meeting, and Megan is here. Why don't you update us on this briefly?
The Senate and
There you go.
the Kansas State Legislature passed a statute changing the seatbelt fine. It has increased for adults from $10 to $30, $20 of which the municipalities and counties must send to the state treasurer to increase the amount of money for the SAFE program. This is required by state statute, so we have amended our ordinance. We have left it in our ordinance not specifically at $30. We've had it as municipal court order. That way, if they change the ordinance in the future, we do not have to change our ordinance.
So basically, right now, we're coming into compliance with a state law, and we've left it, the wording such that if the state law changes again, we won't have to go through this process again.
Correct.
Okay.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Could I have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion passes. And thank you very much. And the next item is making sure here we go. A resolution regarding a wholesale wastewater treatment service contract with Edwardsville. Are you handling this one? Thank you.
I am handling it, Commissioners.
All right.
What we have before us tonight is a resolution which would authorize the unified government to enter into an agreement with Edwardsville for a wholesale wastewater sewer agreement. Staff has worked on this agreement for, I would love to say quickly, but it's been over the last 2 years as we've hammered out the details of it. And we believe we've finally gotten to a place where we've calculated an appropriate wholesale rate And now state statute would require commission approval before we could enter into the agreement with Edwardsville. I do know it's going in front of their commission this evening, going to be the beginning of a very positive thing.
Okay, and I just wanted to comment briefly that City of Edwardsville is just
Agreement was the fact.
Four of those 5 homes. The one home we couldn't really support was a home that was so densely treed and the trees were so large. They were really outside the scope of my volunteer, and see if I can get that one lady taken care of, because she genuinely has a need. So here's a couple of those pictures. Again, more pictures from 83rd Terrace in Yecker. This was later in the week as we went around, and Amy Hayes, my intern, and I went around today. She's with me back here. And we went around and actually inspected the homes before we committed to doing them. We wanted to make sure, again, it was within our scope. So you see some of these are just big pieces that they had done all the rest. They'd picked up all the pieces. You can see that there's no small debris laying. This was stuff they couldn't handle. And so that's what you see, what it looked like. Big pieces in some cases. This is what the home at 2046 North 32nd Street looked like when we got there to inspect it. This is what it looked like after my team got it done. They did an awesome job. It's a great group of volunteers. I'll show you a picture here in a second. This is them cleaning up those yards, getting this stuff moved out. Again, morning's work, and we got these folks taken care of.
That's awesome.
And there's the team.
Thank
Great
you so
group of
much.
folks.
So one quick question for you, because I know of 2 places where nothing's been moved, and I don't have any way of knowing if they're 2 of the 5 that have called you. Apparently they aren't. If I were to reach out to them to say, do you need help?
What I would ask is we follow the same process.
Okay.
Have them call 311, but
Okay,
then
just follow the-
self-identify.
Mr. Bryant.
And actually, I want to put a plug in while you're on this topic. So, you know, the second storm came through and it was really actually more damaging than the first. At one point, the BPU actually called in 3 other cities for assistance. And the one that I want to give the shout out to is Ottawa, who sent their entire electric force to Kansas City,
That's
Kansas.
awesome.
Knowing that if anything would have happened in their city, they had no one, but they,
Right.
you know, they informed us that, hey, we may have to, in emergency, have to leave, but their entire crew came to KCK to help, so.
I
it was,
appreciate that.
It was a
Thank you.
joint effort.
It
No,
really
that's great.
was.
The utilities are always impressive on how you guys do mutual aid with each other. It's awesome.
So I would just thank you, your staff, all of the departments that were involved in it. It came up quickly. It did a surprising amount of damage.
It
You
did.
know, all of us that were out the next morning were just kind of shocked at what it had done. And like you said, again, on Saturday night. And so I'm just really appreciative of the entire response at both the UG and BPU level. Commissioner Philbrook.
Yeah, the biggest thing I noticed, it was so spotty.
It
And
was.
Very spotty. I mean, it's like 1 or 2 houses, just things were just torn apart around them. And the next, you know, the whole block, everything else is like nothing. And so I imagine it made it even more difficult to figure out.
There's no path
There
to
was
go
no
look for,
path,
right?
there
We
was
had to-
no rhyme or reason, it was just it hit and that was it. And so you were just looking at pieces, little pot marks all over the place.
Really, we didn't get a feel for how this was until the 311 calls came in. And so working with 311, getting our residents to understand that that's the best methodology for us to know where the issues are, I think worked well. And we worked really closely with the Chief Knowledge Officer and the 311 staff and Brett to make sure they had good information. I thought we did a pretty good job of getting the public information out. We did open a cooling center. We had several cooling centers that are on our regular list, but we opened what I called a late hours one because of the issue there. Fortunately, nobody came. That's good. That means they're taking care of themselves, but we wanted to be prepared for that.
That's right. Thank you so much. And now, item 5, proposed revision to county emergency operations plan. This is ESF4 firefighting.
Sure. ESF4 is just that. It's fire suppression. And again, like we've been doing all along with this, we held a workshop meeting, got the key stakeholders involved, asked for revisions, made sure that they met the Kansas planning standards, and then we've got this before you to hold. We're very close. We probably have 2 more rounds of this to do, and we'll be ready to call this good and get this thing in the books. So.
All right.
Move to approve item 5.
All right, we have a motion and a second on item 5. Could I have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that item passes. Item 6 are changes to the EOP regarding search and rescue.
Yep, that would be ESF 9. Again, more or less in our world, that's the same group of folks, so we did them together with ESF 10, which we'll bring you next month. But the same stakeholders.
Move to approve item 6.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on item 6. Could I have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that item passes. Item 7 is revisions in county emergency operations. This is ESF 14, and it is assessment, recovery, and mitigation.
Yep, this is the big piece. This is the part that can go on literally for years. Joplin, for example, 6 years later now is still in the recovery phase. So it's really important that we understand that this is the launching blocks for a full-on recovery plan. My intentions are in the next couple of years is to develop a standalone long-term recovery plan. But this gets us going because you have to start thinking recovery during the middle of the response phase to get that going correctly. So we had a lot of different stakeholders in this one, a lot of, not so many of the usual suspects, if you will, a lot of community involvement, Chamber of Commerce, those kinds of folks, because everybody gets impacted in recovery.
Move to approve item 7.
I have a motion and a second on item number 7. Could I have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Kane. Johnson.
Can I
Bynum.
ask a quick
Aye,
question?
and the motion passes, and we have a question.
I'm for, I just wanted a clarification real quick, because.
Sure.
Because you were saying the recovery, so that recovery, you said starts immediately. That kicks in immediately, right along
Gotta be
with the
thinking about it for
assessment.
sure.
Right, and so, well, no, I'm just asking, because it's like, when does recovery start, you
Yeah.
know? So the recovery starts right along with what's going on and follows through until you're through with mitigation?
It's cycle, there's a whole cycle to this, and it's the beginning of the next go-round, which is, in fact, mitigating, trying to stop what happened. If we
Okay.
can't do that, we prepare for it, and then we go back into response and recovery.
Okay,
So we just keep going through that cycle.
okay, thank you.
You bet.
All right, Mr. May, thank you so much. Now, we have a final item on this agenda, and that is a mowing update. And we have Jeremy Rogers here with Parks and Rec. Mr. Rogers, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Commissioners.
All right, and we have Mr. Webb.
We are here to give you guys an update on the mowing program that we spoke to you last fall, and kind of let you guys know where it stands.
All right.
Here's some of the changes that we made for 2017. We reorganized Parks and Recreation to include a new reassigned staff dedicated to lot mowing and a quick response trash team. Those folks were currently employed underneath the Public Works system, and now they are working for us in Parks and Rec. We increased communication between parks and code enforcement. We are in the process of creating an inventory classification of lots to establish a new tiered mowing system. That is ongoing. As we get into it, we're learning what requires a higher priority than other lots. So we're working through that as we speak. We initiated a chemical spraying program for parks and land bank lots. The first round was done not too long ago, and it takes 30 days to do a complete cycle. So we won't see the effects of that for a couple months yet, but we anticipate that being very successful. We've implemented a Lucidity asset management program to provide increased monitoring, tracking, and reporting. That's a software system that Public Works used previously. We're using it now to track where we stand. Here's how we measured success. Due to the additional staffing, we have cut our time frame down from 21 days. Our goal is to get to 14 days on a turnaround time. Previous lots that were mowed an average of 3.5 times a year. Our goal this year is to get them at 8 times. So we're excited about that. The number of call-in complaints about land bank lots has gone down significantly. We just aren't getting the complaints that we had previously been getting, so we're excited about that.
Can you remind the commission where we were at a year ago, or even 2 years ago, just on rounds through the parks?
Absolutely. 2 years ago, we were mowing lots, Public Works was mowing lots, Streets was mowing lots, and we weren't communicating. And no one knew what each was doing. We knew we had a lot of lots. There's about 6,000 lots that were being mowed and weren't sure who was mowing them and whatnot. So we all sat down, worked through the plan to put all our resources into one basket and to keep a level of communication, and that's where we are now. So. Our turnaround lot for the lots, previously the last 2 years was 60 days, and now we're down to 21. So that's the big change that we've noticed, and I think our residents are noticing that as well. In 2016, a total of 613 14-day abatements were sent to the QRTT team. So far this year, we've done 640 abatements. 161 of those were required debris removal in addition to just mowing. And I'll show you some pictures of those here in a minute. The QRTT team averages 15 to 18 lots a day, so they are out constantly. Those guys are working their tails off, so I'm very appreciative for them. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to hop in here again, Commission. Again, this is a huge change for our staff. Last year, that is this total that was sent over for the whole year. 640 is what we've done year to date.
Wow.
And a lot of that is change in process, right, that we were working on with NRC. Back on February 1st, they transitioned to not giving a courtesy notice, going directly to a 14-day abatement, giving people 2 weeks to become good neighbors. And this is the result of that. What's amazing is we were out at 8 weeks a year ago on this, and we're at 21 days. So doubling the volume. This is a lot of efficiency and hard work on the part of the parks team to make this happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. Obviously, I'm not a one-man show. We're a team. And when we combined our resources, we combined a team. And part of that team is, to my right, Jack Webb, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation. He's kind of overseen this project and been the catalyst. Helping him is Kristen Love. She's been very supportive and very instrumental in making this a success. So thank you, guys. Here's the abatement that I was talking about, before and after pictures. I know the lighting's kind of off, but there's a lot less weeds there. Much more presentable and more curb appeal there. Here's some more where they had to go in and clean out trash and just make the place look nicer. So those guys have done a great, great job. And this is the turnaround time and frequency. I've showed this slide to you guys a couple different times, so you've seen it before, but it's an updated of the turnaround time and response time that we are getting to each individual lots.
Instead of your whole report, could you just send me that one page?
This page?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Why don't you just send it to the whole committee?
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. All right, any questions for Mr. Rogers or anybody else on the team?
Not really a question, but I would just say, hopefully other commissioners are having the same experience, but I am getting less calls as well, so I am deeply appreciative, because we used to get a lot of those same calls that would come downtown asking for the mowing, and it's nice not to have to pester you about it, and it's nice not to get them myself, and I just really appreciate all of your work. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm also not getting the negative feedback that I would have been through my community activities group. They're pretty forthcoming in letting me know if there's an area that really needs attention, whether it's a lot or a neighbor or whatever it is. And so, I mean, I have to thank them for being proactive, because without them, then I'm not gonna know whether it's a lot that we own or if it's somebody else's lot, and they usually know. They usually know if it's something we own or if somebody else is just not taking care of something. And I would tell you that we also still have people in the community that are mowing their next door house, even though it doesn't belong to them, you know, because they don't want it to look like it does. So I just thought I would mention that. And so kudos to those people that, you know, don't make the neighbor mad and get in trouble. That's all I have to say. But thank you for your hard work, and we really do appreciate your restructuring.
Thank you. I'd also add that I've noticed just in driving down some of the main thoroughfares in District 4, I was sharing with a group the other day about the fact that we've put money into the SOAR initiative, and I've seen houses going down, but is equally as important, I've seen the lots being mowed and trimmed. I would add that that you convey to our contractors the importance of consistency in how we mow our lots, and particularly our parks. I'm talking about making sure that the sidewalks are trimmed and neatly manicured there. We just need to make sure that we're consistent from park to park. I noticed some parks looks like they look a little bit cleaner than others in my district, and so I just would ask that you would reiterate the importance of being consistent with that. I can see that they're getting to it a lot quicker. I can see that they are trimming, but I just want to make sure that the consistency and our quality assurance is kept up. So just want to pass that along.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay, well, we appreciate this. This is an update only, and it's very much appreciated. And it is also the last item on this agenda. So this meeting is adjourned, and I believe, thank you, sir.
We
Have
have,
a good
it looks
evening.
like just a couple of minutes break, and we will reconvene at 5:30 to start the Administration and Human Services. So. Reconvene.
Yes.
Well, the clerk is still talking.
Oh, okay.
Good. All right, I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You'll have up to 3 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward to the microphone. For accurate recording purposes, we ask all present to speak directly into the microphone. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Philbrook. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Kane. Here. Bynum.
Here.
Markley.
Here. We have our minutes from April 24th meeting for approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those minutes have been approved, and we will move on to our first item, which is an interlocal agreement with Mission, Kansas regarding property located at 3140 South 28th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Thank you. And our we had our first item. This is our last item. My favorite kind of meeting is a discussion on the Community Development Revised 2017 and the proposed 2018 Budget Annual Action Plan and amendments. And Wilba Miller is here to present.
I don't think it'll go that fast.
No, you're probably right, ma'am.
Commissioners,
No.
Make it green. Push your button, there you go.
Okay. The document that was in the RFA was a draft annual action plan based on prior year's numbers, because we hadn't received our allocation. Tonight, I'm giving you new numbers based on the new allocation that we have gotten from HUD. And I put it in this format so that you could see that this is the budget we have either worked with budget on or have submitted to budget. And I wanted to walk you through at least the community development page so that if you had any questions that you could ask. If it's okay with you, then I'll just walk down. We can look at 17 and 18 at the same time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question first? So when you get the allocations from HUD, do they tell you how much to spend in each one of these?
No.
I just want this out so everybody understands
Yes.
that's how we're choosing
Right.
to spend it.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so the first category is CD program administration. As you all know, there's a 20% cap on that, so that we cannot expend more than 20% of our annual CDBG allocation on staff costs for that area. Plus, we have some fair housing costs that we budget every year. That will be used in conjunction with the assessment of fair housing that you all approved and adopted last year. Okay?
Question, fair housing, before we go any further. So is this part, when did we do our last fair housing evaluation, or whatever you want to call it? Was that this last year?
In November, you adopted the
That's the new one?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's our like 5-year plan,
Yes.
sort of? Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that's down. Thank you.
Okay, the next category is the CDBG Section 108 repayment. Everybody's shaking their head yes, which is the repayment of the hotel. Okay. The next section is CDBG Public Services. As you can see, we have livable neighborhoods, 20 for this year and 15 for next year. Because of their rate of expenditure, I recommended a small decrease for next year because they've been able to, their money's been very slow. But I think they're picking up the expenditure rate.
And I'm, Commissioner Merkley, may I step in here? I just want to request that they be reinstated to their full 20,000, and we can go into all of my reasons why if you like, or I can wait till you're done. But I want to make a request on the record that they be funded at 20,000.
You can add me to that.
Again, though, the issue is they're not spending the money quickly enough.
Yes.
So I think and that's obviously a problem because of the regulations. So I think if we're going to consider reinstating that money, we need to know how they are going to get it spent.
And
And,
we can-
and if
we
they
can
can't get
have
it
them-
spent, then
I think we
they
can
don't
have
need to
them
have the money.
respond.
Let's
We can
have-
work with them to figure out how to get them to, whatever they're not doing, if they're not submitting
Well,
requests for payment in a timely
Commissioner,
manner.
I believe that actually Wilba talked to Andrea out at Livable Neighborhoods, and this is the number they agreed upon. So
Right.
I
Did
don't know
you-
what's changed, but
I'm making this request as me.
Okay.
No, I would like to hear about it as well.
But we can talk about it at the end. We can keep going if you want.
Okay. The next one category is Willagill Service Center. The reason why there's $150,000 in this year's is they had a little bit of monies left over last year, so we reappropriated it for their use this year. 148 is their normal annual allocation for the last 2 years. The GKC CEH Continuum of Care Coordinator, the $66,000 includes about, I want to say 13,000 that was left when they merged with the Wyandotte Homeless Services Coalition, merged with the Greater Kansas City. This 66,000 will run them through December 31 of next year. The executive director of the Greater Kansas City Coalition has asked that they be given, they're going to come back before the commission next year and ask that this be funded out of the general fund. They believe that the CD fund is too
Restrictive?
well, not restrictive because it really can't. It's not permanent enough. They're looking for permanent funding, like general fund funding.
Right.
And then doing real work, as you recall, a couple meetings ago, we discussed having them be funded from another fund source too. I'm not recommending what fund source because I don't really know. Okay, so then the next category is our CDBG, acquisition, rehab, and reconstruction. The first item is District 6, acquisition, reconstruction. This is the balance of their current funding. Some of this has been spent already on, the second house. So hopefully this will be, probably I'm hoping towards the end of the year, be finished. The Northeast Acquisition Rehab, they're working on their second structure now. That's supposed to finish up this month. It needs to go up for sale so that they can do the next structure. This is what they have remaining from their original allocation. Okay. Originally, well, I think it totaled up to all total was $140,000.
Is what they were originally given.
They started out with 60 and then they got additional funds until it got up to 140. And this is the balance of that. The emergency home repair is at the same annual allocation, $300,000. And then the project delivery is the rehab staff costs, rehab and other staff costs.
Tell us again.
Rehab delivery, project delivery. It's our inspectors, our environmental person, and other staff costs. And project, and also operating costs, for instance, advertising, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So CDBG demolition, we recommended funding the regular amount for this year with a 0 for next year. Okay. The next 3 items were.
We all had budget sessions earlier today,
Yeah.
so we already got that lecture.
So
You look like you were surprised, so we didn't all jump on that one.
Okay. So the next 3 items were the ones that were approved for funding for this year, last year. Okay. And I know that they're all in process. Most of them are still in some kind of environmental process. We had some delays earlier, as you remember, and we're hoping to get all of them going shortly. The last item is the CDBG and RSA initiatives. As you know, we've been going through a neighborhood revitalization strategy area plan. And we took the balance of the 339, 478, and whatever else was left over and put it in this category to use for the first year of the funding for that area. We recommend public infrastructure like safe routes to school, sidewalks, or ADA improvements, or possibly even some park improvements. So that is the CDBG budgets for 17 and 18. And if you want to stop and talk about the fair or the livable now, or if you want to just keep going.
Questions about anything else, or shall we jump back to that topic?
Well, I think that I think I probably want to hear from Andrea, you know, what her thinking was around, you know, the 5,000 reduction. And
It was my recommendation. I have to say that over the last 5 years, there were several times where we didn't fund them one year because they hadn't spent their money quickly enough. And I know they're doing a better job of it now, but I'm thinking that just a $5,000 reduction wouldn't really hurt.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
And I would like to have
This
one.
can change any time now, between now and the time you adopt the budget. So this is just our draft going forward.
So the
So
bulk
perhaps-
of their costs is actually printing, and they don't do as much of it as they used to do, which is why
That's helpful.
they've had a hard time spending the money. So this is looking at an average. I mean, it wasn't Wilba just thinking. As she stated, it was actually looking at their ability to draw it down. And we have other timeliness issues in here. So, you know, on our end with UG staff, that's why we were looking at that being a cut, simply because they aren't spending it as fast as they need to.
Right. I think probably, knowing though how active that group is, I'm just wondering if there's other ways they can utilize it besides toward killing trees, you know?
Well, and that's been their choice. We don't dictate.
No, I don't mean you dictate, but
Right.
I am wondering if there's other avenues.
Well, Commissioner, we do pay for some of their operating costs, like telephone, travel, some of the travel that they've gone to, some of those, like land bank things. They've gone out of town several times, and they've also we help pay for some videos for rental education. So
That's
it's a
good.
little bit of this and that. I don't have their budget in front of me.
Right, got it. I'll take a look at it
Okay.
if I have any other issues.
That's what I was going to say. If you have a copy of their sort of proposed breakdown that you could share, maybe with the whole committee, but in particular with these two ladies, so they can either ask questions directly of the NRC as to get that comfort level.
Okay.
So I would just like to make a couple of statements about the $5,000. And they pertain to other timeliness issues around other projects that we've spent CDBG money on. And those projects were not cut as a result of their timeliness issues. And this is a staff of 2 people supporting 89 plus active neighborhood groups in Wyandotte County. They are managing 8 NBR contracts. They are handling phone tree notifications for neighborhood activities. They're producing electronic and paper newsletters. They're convening monthly meetings across all kinds of departments for the unified government. They are doing an amazing amount of work. They're managing the Land Bank Advisory Board. They are coordinating monthly neighborhood leadership trainings, and on and on and on. And I think we need to restore their funding. I don't think $20,000 is very much to allocate to a 2-staff person office doing this level of work that keeps our neighborhoods vibrant and clean and active and engaged and informed. So that's just the statement that I'm making on behalf of that office. And if there are other allowable expenses that they can spend this allocation on, then I think we need to work with them on what those allowable expenses would be.
Okay.
I promise you, I think the work that they're doing for Wyandotte County is well beyond $20,000 worth of work. So that is why I'm advocating for their $20,000 to be restored. Yes.
I don't know that we're, I don't know we're at a point in the budget process where our motion is, but we can certainly forward, I don't, does
Our
this even go to the full
request
commission
for
yet?
something
We
to
can
happen.
just
when
make
we
it
come to the
as
budget.
a statement of support. We can say
There
that
you
we have a statement of support for that.
We don't, what I don't want is for there to be a misinterpretation that we are voting on the budget today.
That's right.
Okay.
So I don't want to throw anything out there that's weird, but
We just want to make sure, and I agree with everything that she said, that, and that's not a small cut, that's a 25% cut.
Yes, it is.
So in my mind, that's huge.
Thank you.
so can
I
we?
do want to just state for the record, there was some issue of timeliness that was noted. We are auditing people starting next month that aren't being timely. So we have issues out there, we're completely aware of it, and staff has been pounding that drum for the last couple of years, including with all our internal departments. So I want to make sure that people know that this is not something staff's ignoring, and in fact, this is just the same as all those others. We're trying to address it because we don't want to lose whatever slice of CDBG
Right.
we have left.
And for fairness too, all of our agencies have been told, please submit your bills. If you have bills, submit your bills. Don't wait till the end of the year. Don't,
There's
I
some
won't say
retraining
any more,
going on.
but They're all aware of our frustrations. I
Thank
will
you.
put it that way.
Okay.
And I do have to jump in on this too and say that if it weren't for this group of people working so hard, the commissioners would have very little interaction with the community except on maybe if we have a community meeting. Otherwise, we just wouldn't have the connection with our community. And that would be a sad situation. So that's
I
what
could
have
also
to-
bring you the last 3 years of expenditure so that you could review those too.
I would be fine with that, but I think what might be better is, working with them
Okay.
to identify allowable expenditures of that money.
We'll sit
But I'm
back-
fine with
We'll
looking
sit
at it.
back down with them, have a conversation, and we'll make sure it's reflected in the
Thank
rest
you.
budget.
And I do want to see, and I don't disagree, but I also, if they can't use the money and we can get $5,000 more of sidewalks, then I want us to get the sidewalks. So I do want you to have another conversation with them, but I also don't want to be like, we're forcing you to take this money. If you,
Right, right.
you will take it.
Absolutely.
If they're saying this is what we need and we don't have enough printing to support the cost and we can't figure out what else to do with it and you guys can't find anywhere else to spend it, I want to know that. I mean, I don't think anybody here is going to
I'd
say,
be happy to have
we're going to
that
throw money out the window.
conversation as well.
But
Okay.
let's have an additional conversation with them and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
The next category is our Home Investment Partnership Program.
Question. I have just a
Okay.
couple of comments. I know you want to move on here. I don't want to keep you all from dinner.
Fine.
I
You
know
just
I'm
say he's
hungry.
chips over here.
Doing real work, I just want to be clear about that. I mean, are we still going to be working with them to find funding in other areas, or is this gone for?
Have they been picked up, in other words, by?
Right.
And
from
I
other
can
areas?
tell what I recall from that, and anybody who recalls differently can jump in. So I think it's 3 years now that we funded this program. And the
Right.
first year, we told them, we're only funding you for 1 year. And the second year, we told them, we're definitely not funding you again next year. And the third year, we told them, you need to find, because the judicial representatives came and spoke to us and said, we really like this program, and we told them, then you need to put it in your budget.
Integrate it into your, but I don't know if it's been.
But yeah,
integrated.
that's the question we don't have the answer to.
Okay, so
Can
we
we
don't
get
know.
an
Okay.
answer to that?
Right. I'd
If
like to
they've
be able
been
to know.
integrated into the judicial system in any manner? Because originally, I know that they were working with the municipal court, but they'd also been sequestered a couple of times over across the street. So I kind of want to know what's going on with them, if you don't mind.
The money that we have right now will run them through December 31st.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And the second thing, just a clarification that the Mount Carmel transitional, that was for the improvements to the facility. That was not
Right.
for operations.
There's several
or anything.
duplexes that we were going to rehab,
Very well.
that we're going to rehab.
Anybody else before we move on? Okay, moving along.
The next section is the Home Investment Partnership Program. This is, the first category is our CHIP program. the stars show that these all have asterisks or have the reappropriations that were left over from last year put in there. So I wanted to let you see that that's why this year's is more than next year's. The home proceeds are a new thing that HUD is requiring us whenever there are proceeds from the sale of a property that we own, we have to start budgeting them. So we budgeted it into the CHIP program for next year. The new construction rehab is, Habitat's been working with the city for a number of years. They are not a CHODO. They don't qualify to be a CHODO, but they do work with us and they get a lot of rehab and new construction dollars out of our, leverage out of our dollars. The next one is the CHODO set aside. We're required to put at least 15% of our money into this. Since we have 2 CHODOs, we usually set aside enough for each one to have $90,000 to do a unit, which they sell and start the next unit for.
And the 2 CHODOs are?
Mount Carmel and CHWC.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then we're only allowed 10% for her administration, so both years show 10%. The next grant is the Emergency Solutions Grant. This is for our homeless activities. We're allowed to use 7.5% of it for administrative costs. The rest goes out to homeless agencies. My staff did an RFP, RFP, earlier this summer, probably in May, and all the agencies applied. They had a group made up of 1 UG employee, which is not our community development, 1 from K-State, and 1 from another agencies who reviewed them and made recommendations. And we are this year starting our focus on, instead of rapid rehousing, is now on youth homelessness. I'm sure you've heard the news say how that has just gotten out of hand. So we can give you a breakdown of that. Okay.
My only question here is the cut is due to the allocation, the lowered allocation.
Yes,
okay.
It did get a lower allocation for next year.
Okay.
It did go down. It was the only one that did. Community development went up just a hair. Home went up about $25,000, but unfortunately the homelessness went down. Okay. The continuum of care grants are done by the Greater Kansas City Coalition, and Friends of Yates received, they have 2. One is for the rehab of their facility along with operating, and then the other one is for the regular operating costs. These come through what they call the NOFA, and they've come through us as a pass-through. So this is what they have for this year and next year.
Are those state funds or federal funds?
Those are federal
Federal.
funds. Yes.
So
HUD
all we
funds.
do at that, we're just holding basically the funds. And they've been
As
awarded
they draw
the
it down, we
funds.
draw it for them. We do all the
Okay.
paperwork for them.
So it's kind of like, it's very complicated now. It got even more
I don't even wanna
complicated
go
than it
there.
was.
Yes.
But yeah, but the continuum of care now, since it's over Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, Jackson County, which we happen to be the first one in the nation. We're kind of like guinea pigs to see how well we can play together to help folks. It's very interesting because, like you say, the money comes through our COC and then comes to you to disseminate for whatever group is on this side. And the same thing happens over in Kansas City, Missouri, or Jackson County. So it's been very interesting. I look forward to see how all this works out.
And the very last page is the, I think it's the very last page, yeah. The stimulus grant funds. As you know, we did an NSP1 program and we did NSP3. And the state has told us they want us to start closing those out. We have 1 property left on Quindaro Boulevard. The gentleman is supposed to close next month. That will be the last of all of the properties on Quindaro Boulevard. And that income from the sale of that property goes back to the state. And the income here on the state will probably go, I don't know if it goes back to them or if it's being used to finalize all of the costs. But we will be making these determinations this year. These are the only funds that are left. If we find that we can use these for other activities, we will come back to the commission and say, these are eligible for CD funds to move into CD, and then we will budget them. But we have to go through the closeout process, finalize our developer's deal because we still owe him money, and get this other house sold and closed out.
Would you remind me how many houses we started out with on Quindaro?
We built 21 new houses and rehabbed 5 houses.
And that was, how long ago did that start?
About 3 years ago, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
In the first round in NSP1, we bought 52 houses and ended up rehabbing 49 of them. And Habitat is built on the other, well, one of the other vacant lots. So we're done with NSP1 too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions on any of that? That was for information only, and it was the last item on our agenda. So thank you very much, and that concludes our meeting. We are adjourned.
Yay.